Record. So, welcome everyone. Welcome to the Healing Circle in Environlution and the Wellbeing Tent. So we have Natasha here today with us. Natasha, how do you say your last name?
Boojihawon.
Boojihawon. I wanted to say that right. So Natasha, thank you so much for joining us. This is great to have you here at Environlution at the Wellbeing Tent. So I'm just going to say that Natasha is going to speak about work with the community and how each and one of us can guide the communities into the future and to new ways. Natasha has been working a lot with communities in the past. You've been on a self-discovery journey yourself. You've gained a lot of ancient wisdom and you kind of merge everything together into all the work that you do to serve the people around you. So welcome, and we are looking forward to hear you. We'll have some people in the room here with us, and we'll have people watching us through YouTube Live. And this will be all recorded, and I'm going to keep an eye on the chat, and I'll keep an eye on the YouTube as well. So if anyone says anything, then I'll just fit in. Yeah? So I will pass it on to you now.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much for that introduction, and thank you so much for having me on this program for Environlution Festival. It's really beautiful for us to just still be able to gather and to come together and share our energies at this time. And I just feel also that it's so important, you know, for us to continue to just find new ways of gathering and continuing the beautiful work that we're doing as we all know, these have been very challenging times. And from all of this, so much creativity is coming, so many new ideas. And this really is the birth of a new era. And so just really grateful to have the opportunity to share a little bit of what, you know, what I've been working on the last 12 years, and just in kind of hope that it supports people in some way, inspires people in some way to have the confidence to get out there and shine your light and introduce and keep and keep motivated with your projects in the world. So I'm going to explain like a little bit of my background and how I came into doing conscious community work. And I'm going to share with you my top 3 components of conscious community work as well. I feel it's really important for me at the moment to just keep it simple and to share the basics, you know, to really be able to get us going. So I currently practice as a holistic therapist working with internal family system psychotherapy, with energy work, with naturopathy, nutritional therapy, yoga, mindfulness, meditation, and I have a very integrated practice. And I'm a trauma informed therapist, and I also work as a coach in an integrated, holistic way too. But my journey here to here where I am now started very much with working in the community. So my kind of academic background is in politics and social development, and I kind of that sort of gave me the academic, shall we say, understanding and backbone to working in the UK, working with communities, campaigning. I did a lot of activism work back then, a lot of sort of influencing policy making type of work too. So I kind of had that backbone, and I've sort of found myself in a position leaving university after studying my master's where, you know, caught in that cycle of not having the experience to get like a really juicy job, but then, but then being too, like having too many qualifications in a way for people to give me like an entry level position because they knew I was just going to try and get somewhere else. And so, through my own experiences, not being able to find really any work that was sort of suitable in this sort of broad field of the public sector, my husband, my fiance at the time, Roop Sagar, and I decided to start a social enterprise. And we started to work in the community. And we just kind of showed up and we just gave ourselves and we did whatever it is that we felt we had to do, we were meant to do, where we were meant to be. And we sort of followed a combination of our intuition, which we didn't really know about back then, but also really having our ear to the ground, speaking to people. We thought we had an idea about where we could be, where we could fit, and what we could be in service to do. And we started to support community organizations, social enterprises, charities to create digital media content to help them get their voice out there, because we thought, there are all these amazing projects, amazing campaigns, amazing organizations, but we didn't really hear about them. And through doing that work, we slowly progressed, evolved into working with young people, with people from marginalized backgrounds, with people who had special education needs, lots of different types of people, all with that kind of common theme of being marginalized, excluded, or distant from sort of mainstream society, harder to hear, harder to find. Harder to reach sort of people. And through our own experience and through that journey of making mistakes and the ebbs and flows and the ups and downs, we were able to just grow an organization called Union Street Media Arts. And in time, we became an organization, a specialist organization in engaging with young people, and we would often get dropped into very socially isolated parts of a community, say for example in Salford or in Stockport, and we would be asked to put a project on and engage with the young people and help them to achieve certain outcomes that organization would have. And that's what we have done for the last 10, 12 years. But at some point, Roop and I decided that through our own healing journey, our perspective completely changed. And we decided that in order to make a bigger impact and to reach more people, that we were going to focus on the health and well-being of people. Because we felt that if we were all healthy and we were all free and liberated from our trauma and our karma, and we were just on this path of self-development, and really tuning inwards, which never ends, by the way. I'm sure you all know that. We felt that then people would be in an even more powerful position to be able to fulfill their community work, whether they were an activist or whether they were campaigning, or whether they were doing youth and community work, or whether they wanted to develop a beautiful new initiative in the community. So for us, we were going back to the root of what is it really fundamentally that is enabling us or disabling us in society? What is it? Where can we position ourselves where we can have the most impact? And this is where we are now, running a holistic clinic and running teacher training programs in energy medicine. So our thing is to inspire and upskill and support the practitioners, the teachers, the guides, the leaders of tomorrow with the skills that they feel that they need to do a whole variety of different supportive work. So that's where we came from. And hopefully in that story, I've shared also a few little kind of pointers or references from
little nuggets.
Start to tune into this work.
Yeah, I just wanted to say little nuggets of wisdom of how one navigates their own story, right? From studying dreams and ideas into the practical world, and how do you transform those? And yeah, the navigation and how you open those doors, isn't it? So yeah, thank you for sharing that. And sorry for interrupting.
No, absolutely. And It's beautiful. You're very tuned and connected into, you know, the message that I want to share here today, you know, which is that we are creating a new reality. So many of us in it that are in a sort of supportive position, supporting people or the planet in some way, are here. So many of us are here because we've heard this call, and we just have this knowing within us that, you know, that we're just going to find our place and take our place and be in service. And yes, a lot of us have our own stuff, our own healing to do, and you know, we're working through our own healing in that process. But it's a very beautiful journey. But for me, in order for us to really do this work and to show up to our communities in a way that is effective and relevant, and that they need for us to show up to them, you know, there are a few things that are really important for us to really tune into and upgrade. This new way requires a new upgraded way of being and thinking and moving and navigating into this area. You know, absolutely. The old way that we were doing things, you know, I'm particularly talking about not just the way things are done in the sort of kind of mainstream, but, you know, also, you know, I have noticed and observed within also conscious communities that you know, there are still residues of the old way, because those imprints fundamentally lie within us. So if we're going to show up to our community in the way that they need us to show up to them, we've got to start to recognize our personal responsibility in purifying our own assumptions, our own judgments, our own belief systems, our own opinions that we have already made about people, places, spaces, about governments, policies, communities. Because these beliefs, opinions, thought processes, whatever you want to call them, are energetic. These are our emanations, but these are also the starting points from which, and the reference points from which we are using. But it's a conditioned identity that we have. And we've got to recognize the personal responsibility we have when being in service to check in with, where are my projections coming from? And I'm not just talking about negative projections. I'm talking about any of our energetic emanations. Where are they coming from? Where am I making assumptions about the people, the places and the spaces that I'm working with? And where I've recognized that there are assumptions, there are judgments, there are opinions, there are entrenched belief system, is it appropriate for me to cleanse or purify or release any of this in order to show up to my community, to that space, in a way that's relevant for them, that is needed for them, not in the way that I think, because of my old belief system, that I need to be, but more aligned to how that person, that community needs us to show up. So there's a subtle difference there. And this old colonial, patriarchal, imperialist way that has created structural inequality, that's created hierarchy, patriarchy, that has created these archetypes that we've hung on to, we've latched onto, and, you know, and it's all for our own protection and survival. This isn't, you know, there's nothing malevolent in this. Everything that we take on as a human, all of that, the way that we organize our feeling states, the way that we project ourselves, you know, our internal world is simply seeking to protect us and to help us survive and progress in the world. And when we understand that about ourselves, because we've done that level of work, then we can see that in others. We can see it in others when we're approaching them, that their system is simply there to protect them and to guide them. And it makes it easier for us to work on our judgments and assumptions that we have of other people. But, you know, with this, there are layers and layers and layers and layers. We do a little bit, we go away, we pause, we go out there, we integrate these new teachings, we create new movements and new projects, and then we reflect again, you know, and we come back in and we purify again. And we go through these cycles and constantly just shedding these layers and renewing these layers. So yeah, please jump in and let me know if Carolina, if any questions come up in the chat, or if anybody else has any questions. I don't know what the policy is, if you're all meant to keep yourself on mute, or I'm happy to just unmute yourself and ask.
Yeah. So everybody that comes in is automatically muted, but they can unmute themselves. So if you're happy for people to just speak out loud, then that's great. If you prefer a few people to write on the chat, just let us know.
Yeah, that's perfect. So one of the things that that can help us to navigate all of this that I'm talking about, one of the three components of conscious community work that I want to talk about is really getting clear on our soul vision and earth mission. So if you're used to doing businessy stuff or working for a voluntary sector organization, then the idea of strategy it may be familiar with you. And this is like the foundation that forms everything that we do moving forward. If we get this foundation really solid, really beautiful, really resonating with the true essence of us, of who we are and why we're here, this becomes our mantra. This becomes what we put out to the world, and everything then comes into alignment with us, with our mission and our vision. And it also helps us to stay really on track. So, you know, some of you might be able to resonate. There was a time when I was just like spinning plates, and I took on so much because everything sounded so exciting, and you know, and I just wanted to get all of the experience, and you know, that was great. But there came a point where I had to come back to my original strategy, my mission and vision, you know, and say, okay, is what I'm doing in line with this? Because if it's not, I need to let it go. And I need to let it go because if I want to stay really true and show up to my community in the way that they need me to, energetic, unbounded, in that love and compassionate energy, loving and compassionate, kind energy, then I need to preserve my own energy. I need to preserve my own integrity. And so staying aligned and focused is a really key component of that. So I'm talking here about a personal soul vision and soul mission and earth mission. But also this can be applied to an organizational level. You may already have or want to develop for your project or for your organization a vision and a mission, again, to keep you on the straight and narrow. So the vision that we hold is something that comes from like a really fundamental part of soul. It's very much aligned to our true essence. It really is the vision that we have for the future. It's that kind of almost end point which we see manifesting at some point, and which we know that, you know, here in this lifetime right now, we are, you know, we're here to contribute to that vision. And it's often a vision that is held by many, right? Or we all have a slightly different, you know, kind of perspective of that vision. But the vision is like this big change that we see for the future. This long-term goal, shall we say. So a vision can be like, you know, my vision is for all humans to be abundant, healed, and liberated. You know, that's my vision. That's what I see. I see this point where, you know, we are abundant, we are in harmony, we are, you know, we are healed. You know, that's a vision. And the Earth mission is the mission that we are on right now that's going to help to achieve the soul vision. So the mission are our steps that we take to contribute to that vision. So for example, a mission may be, my mission might be to share the tools and techniques to support the evolution of human beings, specifically through the discipline of yoga, nutrition, ceremony, and energy healing. So if you see, so the bigger vision, which was, this thing that, okay, isn't just my vision, it isn't just mine to overcome or contribute to in this lifetime, it's shared by many, but my vision is that, that all humans will be liberated and free and healed. And then my mission, the way I'm going to do that is through yoga, through providing therapy, gatherings, ceremony, nutrition, psychotherapy, and that kind of thing. So the mission is are like the practical steps that are going to get us there. Now, the key to the vision and the mission is the purifying aspect that I was talking about. I'm going to bring this notion in several times. So, process of purifying our vision and mission, we can create a conscious, refined strategy that is flowing from a place of love and not fear. And when we do this, when we nail this, that's when we are in full flow. That is when our manifestation powers are in full activation. Now, we're always in flow. I'm not one of these people that's like, I'm in flow now. Oh, and no, I'm out of it. There's too much judgment associated with that for me. For me, it's like we're always in flow. It's just that sometimes our flow is a bit more sluggish, slower. And sometimes our flow is like free flow, full on free spirited, full on synchronistic power. Everything is coming my way. Okay. And so, when we're really purifying and we're purging our fear, our doubt, our ignorance, our judgment, all of these dense energies, the trauma, the karma, the conditioned identity that we've created around ourselves, the filters and the blinkers that we've put on that facilitate our vision to be kind of warped or obscured in some way. When we cleanse that and we purge that and we purify that from our system, then our vision and mission starts to become very clear. And so when I work with my students and my clients on this, we're revisiting this week after week after week. So you can create your vision, you can create your mission, but you want to go into a process with it in that short-term period where you're looking at it every day. You're leaving it for periods of time, going off and doing some work and then coming back and looking at it and saying, wow, that there's a little word there that I didn't realize has had such a profound impact on this whole meaning for me and for other people. Because ultimately other people are going to be receiving your energy. They're going to be receiving your visions and your missions. They're going to want to join you on that, or they're going to want to support you on that. And so it's important that we also see our visions and missions from the perspective of others too. And so when these are aligned to the highest and greatest good, to those loving, kind energies, rather than our own agendas, which is based on our conditioned identity, then we can get into this beautiful full-on flow.
Natasha, I think maybe Elijah, do you want to unmute yourself and just say something? Because he asked.
Yeah. So I was wondering. Hi, Natasha.
Hey.
I was wondering. So how do we cleanse these filters? How do we release all that agenda?
Beautiful question.
And then still have like a mission. Like I feel like a conflict between having a mission and an agenda. Isn't my mission my agenda?
So, I mean, potentially, our agenda is coming from the ego, is coming from the those part of us that still carry the imprints and the old energies due to the experiences that we've had in the past, due to our trauma that we're carrying. And so, when we go into this process or meditation with our vision and our mission, we will naturally, and as we work with energy, as we work with the breath, as we work with nature, as we work through movement, drama, song, whatever is your own individual or your set of individual tools and practices that work for you to be able to tune inwards, observe, acknowledge, release, cleanse, purify, invite back in the qualities, whatever are your set of tools. As you go through that process, you will then be able to be a clearer channel, a more open, clearer channel to receive that wisdom from your own intuition, from your own higher self, from your own soul energy, that will guide you and show you where the little tweaks and adjustments are to be made, where the projections are, where the agenda is coming in. The mission itself are your practical steps that you're taking to fulfilling the vision. The mission it sounds quite, it sounds very hard, right? It can sound like a kind of like a mission. It can often be associated with these like religious or military even adventures, right? But really, it's the mission are like our steps towards fulfilling that vision, that beautiful vision that we hold together. I don't know if that helps in any way, Ellie, but yeah, amazing to connect with you.
It does, thank you.
So I'd like to move in to talk about the second, the second thing that I wanted to talk about was the purification element, and I think I've spoken very much about that. The other thing that we can bring to this equation at some point are our intentions, and now these are so important, because the intentions that we have are become our mantras, become our thought patterns, again, become a part of our energetic and emanations. Okay. And so when we are intending to do this work in the community, when we are developing our intentions from this, again, we want to become aware at a deeper level the energy that those intentions are holding. And so again, we will want to identify any assumptions, opinions, or judgments, or any old energy or baggage that we're carrying that is influencing our intentions to be a certain way. Okay, so sometimes I even speak to my clients when we do this exercise and, you know, tuning into what are your intentions for the energy medicine course that I'm doing. And often my students say, I just want to help people. Now, that's beautiful. Let's go into that. Let's go in. Where is that need to help people coming from? Because this is the level at which we've got to examine these things. Is that need coming from a place of judgment? Are we making a judgment about a particular group of people that they need my help because I'm the one to save them? Or is there a different energy behind that? And so this is where we can come in and really start to make those beautiful little refinements, those corrections, those little tweaks that take us out of the ego, that take us out of our conditioned identity and bring us into our power, into that essence of who we are, you know? And I've been there. I have been there. I have been devastated by my own reflection, by what I have seen in myself. And it can be really tough to go through this process. It can be really cringy. I'm not going to lie. It's not like roses and petals. It's not like all love and light. I'm not about that. It can be really tough. But there's a relief that comes with that, because you're like, oh my God, I don't need to carry that anymore. Like, I don't need to carry that intention. I don't need to carry the weight and the pressure of what I think that I have to do for others, what responsibility I think I personally hold on my shoulders that's just me. when we really go into this, it gives us an opportunity to actually release a lot and drive that energy into the work in a really pure way that enables us to be more energetic. And the final thing that I wanted to that I wanted to talk about is we have a question here from Andrea. I thought, Andrea, you were gonna unmute yourself and talk, but then I see that you've written something. Let me have a little look here.
Yes, I can chat about it. Hi, Natasha. Lovely to see you today.
Too.
I was really, it touched me what you were talking about intentions, and also about it not being the most comfortable realization. It can be quite awkward. And I wondered, from your experience, if you'd ever had any projects where you'd set out with what you thought was clarity, and maybe partway through you had that realization, oh, actually, maybe I do need to check my assumptions, my judgments, but you're midway through the project. And I'd just be intrigued if you ever had any experiences of managing that kind of thing.
Yes, yeah, absolutely. When your work, it's happened many times, but when fundamentally, and thank you so much for asking this question, because the answer that I'm going to give is going to bring up a particular word that I haven't used yet, which I really have got to, which is safeguarding. So this all comes down to safeguarding, because if we don't adjust those intentions, if we see that we've come in and the intentions that we've shared and that we're projecting are just either not aligned, or perhaps it's not what we thought it was, or maybe we made a whole load of assumptions, or whatever it is. And if we go into that situation, we see that, but we don't adjust it, we don't have those open, honest, difficult conversations, and we don't put those adjustments in place, like literally, even if it means changing absolutely everything, then we are potentially putting the safeguarding element of our project at risk. So we're potentially creating unsafe situations, unsafe relationships with very often very vulnerable people that we're working with. I mean, we're all vulnerable, let's face it, but when you're creating a space and you have people coming into that space for the outcomes of health and wellness, for example, emotional health, maybe you're working with young people who have been through abuse or trauma of some sort, it's really important to think about how we create that safe container. And so absolutely, I have had to go through this. There was one project, it was a home office funded project at a school where we were working as part of a team. We were managing the project. It was a multidisciplinary arts program, and we were working with a group of young women in the project. And we went in, and the assumptions that we made were about how at risk the young people were. We were like, oh, they're okay, we can handle this. We totally went in there a little bit more naive. And we also had, we made a lot of assumptions around the team that we were working with, because the organizations we hadn't spent any time working with in the past, we'd been put together with them by another organization. And we just assumed from what they said and from what we read and some of the conversations we had, we didn't envision together. We didn't really set a whole load of intentions together. We created mine and groups intentions, and then we sort of kept them there. And as we started working with the organization and we observed the way that organization was working with a group of young people, we realized that our values, our techniques, our visions, our intentions were totally misaligned. We were coming from this at a completely different perspective. And it started to impact the well-being of the young people. It started to put the young people, they were then put in a very unsafe situation. And I can't go too much into detail about it, but their behavior started to change in such a profound way that we became worried about their mental and emotional health. And so we absolutely had to get around that table and have those difficult conversations and say, like, we didn't make this clear, or, we did not engage together in these issues, and we need to have these difficult conversations. And it was really, really, really tough. But yeah, thank you so much for bringing that up.
Thank you.
So the last thing that I just want to talk about, I just want to mention briefly, and I'm not going to go too much into this because this is a whole area that I teach, that I run training programs on, that I teach, and that I coach people in particularly. And that is how to, in a practical way, in terms of strategy and project management, how to create conscious, ethical, sustainable projects and campaigns that are aligned to our values, to our vision, to our mission. And how do we do that in a way that keeps the power dynamic where you want it to be? So for me personally, it's all about keeping the power in the hands of the people and the places and the spaces. I don't empower you. I changed my opinion around that a long time ago. I don't empower you. I support you to empower yourself. I support you to lead yourself, to inspire and develop your sense of self-leadership. And that's what I'm here to do, not just as a therapist, but as a community development worker as well. And so when we are going into these situations, it's really important for us to design a strategy of working with people that keeps the power in their hands, that keeps the power in those spaces and in those places. So for me, I have a ground zero approach, stage zero approach. So before I even start planning with my team what the project's going to be and how it's going to look, and then we're going to have this part of the project and then that bit, and then it's going to be brilliant. Before we even go into any of that, there's a stage zero, which is all about listening. It's about listening to our communities. It's about getting the stakeholders, traditionally is the label for it, but getting the people that represent that community around the table and simply listening to them and starting to work out what makes them tick, because they may be very different in this neighborhood than that neighborhood. The way they do things here might be completely different to the street next door. So it's really important for us to start to get the flavor of that and to start to really mold ourselves to them so that we can go back to what we think we came here to do and readjust that. So community engagement is really, really, really important in any program that you are doing, in any project you are doing, no matter how small or how big. There can always be a community engagement element which allows you to engage with the very people that you are looking to support, to get their involvement, to get their voice, to get their ideas woven into the fabric of that movement, of that project, of that, because that's how you're, number one, more likely to be bang on point to achieve your outcomes. But number two, this is the ethical part of the project. What are you here to do? Are you here to impose a project, i.e. a method of working, a way of working, a set of tools, a set of opinions, a set of practices? Are you there to direct that because you have an idea of how you think it should be? Or are you here to facilitate people to be able to do it themselves? Or are you going to be somewhere in the middle and recognize that sometimes there's a need for both? I'm not saying there's any right or wrong. I'm just saying one side is loaded with more karma and more stuff that you have to unpick and go and clean up later on. And the other side is going to be less loaded, but it's going to allow you to be more in flow and be more abundant in your energy. And so I'm so happy for anybody to get in touch with me who wants to talk to me in more detail about community engagement and what that entails, and maybe going deeper into what that means and how to do that and how to even design, manage and plan projects, even how to facilitate. This is whole area of work that I do, consultancy work, and I do training and coaching in. So please come and get in contact with me. But I would love at this point to sort of maybe take any questions or any reflections from anybody, as I'm conscious that we have 15 minutes left.
Thank you, Natasha. I would like to share something because you've said something before. I mean, a lot of what you said resonates somehow with things that I've been going through and things that I've been thinking. There's a strong element in me of service, not only because I was been a carer for my mom in a way. I mean, I'm not an official carer, but I kind of had that energy, and she has done the same for other people. And so it's interesting to think, where does my need to help others come from? And I think, like you say, for me, it's really important not to judge either way. It's just to know what it is, because it's like a little click, isn't it? It's clogged like this, and you just become aware and it just unclicks. You don't have to kind of either be one or the other. It's just unclicks in an almost magical way. But so we met at the Wonder Inn, an arts project that some of you might know, in the center of town by Kirsty Almeida, and it became a hub for well-being as well. That was one of the aims of the highest aims of that project, to combine creativity and well-being into one space. And I remember being so overwhelmed with so many things, obviously, like a project like that does to somebody who's managing it all, and you have so many things pulling you and you have to solve so many problems, that so many times I was not in a space where I could be kind to a person that was just walking through the door, that had no idea what I was going through, but that person didn't have to have that idea. But what you said about taking care of ourselves to then be able to be open and kind is so, so important, because it's not his or her fault that I'm running around doing a million things. It's also not my fault that's what's happening. But I kind of like, we need to find that time. It's so important, because it almost undermines what you're doing if you're not in that space. That's how I felt. It's like, I'm here for this mission, for this vision, and by being like this, I'm just killing it all, because I'm just shutting doors, aren't I? So I was like, wow, it's so important to give myself that self-care so that I can then be full of love that I can give. So that's something I just wanted to share.
Thank you so much. That's such a beautiful teaching. So important to hear. Thank you.
If anyone else wants to say anything, please do.
So I kind of relate to what you said, Carolina, because I've been caring for my mom for 15 years. So I was her main full-time carer. So I've always put others people's need before myself, especially my mom's. So now I've kind of sort of detached away from that. I still find that sometimes I go back to my old way of thinking, old way of doing. During this lockdown, because I have my own place now. My mom was feeling really ill, so she actually slipped in the kitchen. She slipped and landed on her floor, and I felt so guilty for not being there, for not being and looking after her. But then I thought, hold on a minute, I need to just calm down here. She can move. She's obviously in pain. I can go visit her, but I don't need to be that full-on. I don't need to take on that full-on caring responsibility, because it's been bringing my energy down for several years. So it's just finding that way of navigating from old way of thinking to new way of thinking to new way of being, because for 15 years that was my life, you know. Yeah, that's what I just want to say.
You know, that's just reminded me of like a sort of strategic ambition I've had over the last few years. So in doing this work, I've kind of really radicalized my views on the holistic dimension to health, well-being, community work, which, you know, as I'm sure many of you will feel is very much, you know, missing, particularly in the mainstream, and particularly in the community work. You know, this idea of like it being holistic is just kind of coming in. But as another layer on top of that, I really believe that in order for us to really not change, but you know, to really help people, nature, you know, societies, communities, to overcome a lot of the major challenges that we face right now, which it feels like it's getting worse. It might not be, but it feels more intense. With more people on the planet, less, not necessarily more money or more time to do this work, right? How are we going to keep up? And for me, I really believe that self-care, working holistically, are two of the key components to being able to fulfill the stuff that we want to fulfill effectively, but still have time for ourselves, because we don't necessarily have more time to do the work out there in the community. And what we need to be doing is taking more time to ourselves, because traditionally we haven't given ourselves enough. So we actually, if you look at it, we have less time to do more work than we think that we had. And so for me, the only way we can do that is by taking that time to ourselves, doing the personal inner work, being more powerful, more abundant, more energetic, clearer, and cutting out, and from that, we can just cut out a whole load of unnecessary things that we're doing and move forward with more clarity. So I used to work 60-hour week when I was doing my community and youth work 2 years ago, when I was still really in it. And I have brought that right down to 25 hours a week. And my ambition is to bring that down to 16. I'm earning 3 times more money than I did back then. I am much more impactful now. I'm reaching more people. People, you know, what I'm doing now is much more profound than it was 2 years ago. And I'm working almost 3 times less. So I really believe that self-care is the key. Absolutely. So I'm so pleased that you mentioned that. Any other questions or reflections?
Thank you. It's been such a beautiful little journey that you've taken us into community, working ourselves, and the different things that we all do, the people that are in this Zoom and watching us on YouTube.
Thank you so much for having me. I really appreciate it.
And Natasha, so if people want to reach you, where should they find you?
So I have a website and blog. It's called natashaanand.com. I'm going to type it in the
chat.
And I'm just having my website revamped. And then I also have a school. It's called Clinic and School. So it's a clinic and school. So I'm going to put the website on here, yourearthschool.co.uk. So if you go to yourearthschool.co.uk, we have some free courses. We've got a free course on at the moment, which is called Protect Your Mind, Body and Energy Fields. And it's all about how to protect your mind, body and energy fields. It's a really beautiful short course with 3 videos and a bonus video and some other stuff, which I invite you to sign up to. And we have, you know, we have 2 teacher training programs on there. One that's an ongoing program called Holistic Medicine Practitioner Training. It's all for people who are working in some sort of you know, kind of supportive capacity, whether you're a teacher or a therapist or a practitioner or a healer. It's an online program which is all about self-care. It's all about personal practice and also professional practice and business development. And we have a clinic too, and we provide therapies like internal family system and energy medicine, and we have a little mini yoga studio, and normally we have classes here on a weekly basis, which hopefully at some point we will get back to, but we have a lot of online classes, Zoom classes as well, so you can find that all also through our website, yourearthclinic.co.uk. There we go, that's me.
Perfect, thank you so much, Natasha. We're gonna have, in about 5 minutes, Ariane, she's gonna join to do her fiery yin yoga. So guys, you are welcome to stay in the Zoom or go for a quick break and come back. And Natasha, thank you so much. Have a brilliant rest of your day. It was beautiful. Such a long time I haven't seen you also, so it was nice to see you here too. Thank you.
Oh, it's so wonderful to see you all. Thank you for tuning in, sending you loads of love.
Thank you.